Do you want us to fill this out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He's on. No. Do we need them?
I don't know how to turn them on.
It's with this thing, something with that, yeah,
Right behind you.
that's, they're on.
Yeah, there.
We can call to order the town manager search committee meeting for Thursday, March 20th at 5 p.m. This meeting is being recorded on Zoom to be broadcast on the town channel. And for the roll call, Alec Rich,
Here.
Audrey Michelle,
Here.
Tim Griffin,
Here.
Rick Dorney,
Here.
Zach Sillis,
Here.
Dinah O'Brien,
Here.
Sharon Rice,
Said she was gonna be late.
Joe Fernandez,
Here.
Carol Bratt.
Here.
So, you have a few documents in front of you. You have a copy, of the bylaws for the screening committee. You also have a copy of the open meetings guidance from the Secretary of State. There is a signature page that I separated. If at some point, either after today's meeting, or if you already are familiar with the booklet, or after you're able to review the booklet, if you could sign that page and drop it by the clerk's office for our records, that would be great.
If we've already completed this for other boards, do it again and say. Town manager search committee body.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Joe,
Yes,
are you muted?
am I muted?
Muted? Oh, I just didn't know if you were. Okay, I can hear you.
Here in the room, or what do you?
I can hear it.
I just got a text. Mike. From Joe on you, she has no. On Zoom, baby.
No, oh, did it?
Here it is. Oh,
Oh, it's unmuted.
mm,
My audio's on. It looks like Charlene could possibly.
you're on.
Yeah, I'm not muted.
What?
I am not.
Oh.
So the first item is introduction of members. We already did the roll call, but if we wanted to go down the list of members, if you just want to say who appointed you to this committee, and if you have anything to add to that.
Alec Rich III, I'm the select board appointee for the search committee.
Audrey Moshella, I'm the school committee appointee.
I'm Carol Bratt. I was appointed by Jack Conway, the town moderator.
Darnell O'Brien, I was appointed by the moderator.
Joe Fernandez, I too was appointed by the town moderator.
Zach Tillis, I was appointed by the finance committee.
Tim Griffin appointed by the planning board.
And Rick Dorney appointed by the board of censorship.
Okay, great. And then the next item on the agenda is committee organization. So your committee will need to nominate and vote and elect a chair, vice chair, and clerk. Are there any nominations for the chair for this committee?
I'd like to nominate Dinah O'Brien for chair.
I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call for the nomination of Dinah O'Brien for chair. Alec Rich.
Yes.
Audrey Michelle.
Yes.
Tim Griffin.
Yes.
Rick Dorney.
Yes.
Zach Sillis.
Yes.
Dinah O'Brien.
Yes.
Sharon Rice. Joe Fernandez.
Yes.
Carol Brett.
Yes.
So Dinah O'Brien, you are nominated as the chair. I'll continue with the next two nominations and then I'll hand the meeting off to you. Okay, Are there any nominations for vice chair this evening?
I'll nominate Alec Rich. Second. I assume you wanted Alec.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
And a roll call for Alec Rich for vice chair. Carol Bratt,
Yes.
Joe Fernandez.
Yes.
Dinah O'Brien,
Yes.
Zach Sillis,
Yes.
Rick Dorney,
Yes.
Tim Griffin,
Yes.
Audrey Michelle,
Yes.
and Alec Rich.
Yes,
And are there any nominations this evening for clerk?
I'd like to, why are you shaking your head? I haven't even finished it. I'd like to nominate Tim Griffin if he would accept.
I think I would decline given other things going on. But thank you.
Okay,
Are there any other nominations?
Is there anybody that wants it?
Is there anybody interested?
Don't
in-
everybody speaking the same.
wait, Sharon said yes?
Sharon Rice. I'll nominate Sharon Rice. Good idea. Do I hear a second? I second.
Can we do that?
Since she's not here, I'm not sure if she could accept.
Yeah.
We'll leave that matter as pending for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yes, she
there
is.
she is. Congratulations.
Yes, I'll leave it there or there. I'm going on this crosswalk. Sorry.
That's fine. So we have Sharon Rice joining us. She was appointed by the town moderator, and in your absence just a moment ago, you were nominated for
Uh-oh.
clerk
Oh,
of
no.
this board, but
Oh.
you have the option to accept or not accept.
I cannot. I'm
You
sorry.
cannot accept.
Yes, I
Okay,
just don't have the time.
so at this time, shall we leave clerk appointment for the next meeting?
We could, unless Jill would want to do it.
I'll pass. I'm sorry, I didn't say that loud enough. I'll pass.
Yeah, we'll, I guess, wait for next meeting.
Audrey?
No, I'm. At my.
It's not
capacity of what I
exclusively
can
a
do.
women's show.
The first person nominated was a man.
Oh, oh, good. Sorry, I missed that.
Before you were here. Okay, so we will continue that item to the next meeting. The next item on the agenda is setting the next meeting date and time. Are there any thoughts from the committee about when they might want to meet again?
Well, then we have members of, I guess, we have members of the school committee, select board, finance committee, and planning board, who all have meetings.
Yeah.
Particularly this time of the year.
Mm.
So,
And you're usually Thursday.
Yeah.
Meetings. We're Wednesday.
we're Mondays.
Tuesdays. yeah.
Okay, so it's like every day. of the week.
I was just gonna ask from a scheduling perspective, what is? We're gonna be looking at applicants for the position, when is a reasonable time list for town officials to expect something to act on?
Can I just, given that this is, I think, my fourth time serving on screening committee here in Norton. If I may, just tell you what my experience has been in terms of process. So the key obviously is the advertisement, whatever tool we're gonna use to get out there. And my initial thought was, knowing that, you know, we've already missed a week, I was going to write an ad and run it by you folks to see whether it met what you thought would be the key points to hit on. And one of the things that is, I think, critical is a salary range. I've just spoken to Alec, and a salary range hasn't been established. So until that salary range is established, you can't write an effect of that. But once an ad is written, typically it's put in Mass Municipal Association's beacon, both print and online. I think there are 4 or 5, 2 or 3 of them out of state currently listed, but Yeah, that, online, it'll go up 2 or 3 days after we put it out there. And then, probably within 2 or 3 weeks, we start getting applications, but, again, the critical piece is the advertisement.
I think if my memory serves. Maybe two annual meetings ago. There was a, we think that, especially, but there was a salary. Structure established for. Many of the, board heads for the town. The managers for the town, I think.
But
the
I don't
town
think-
manager was, there was a
Town meeting-
scale, minimum to a maximum
Mhm.
for each position.
I don't know that would apply to a town manager, because typically that's contractual.
Yeah.
Board of selectmen, or the select board.
So the agenda item that we're on is saying the next meeting date. So everybody was able to get here on a Thursday. Would Thursday be acceptable, or was this a challenge for people?
If we can do it, I mean, from, Madam Chair, if I may. Our meetings are generally on Thursdays, every other Thursday, and if we have it, we're able to do it at 5 o'clock. And we normally start, 6 o'clock or 6:30, I think. I mean, how long do these meetings, how long will these meetings go? It depends on whatever's on the agenda.
Ideally, the meeting should be no more than an hour, to be, if we've all done our homework
Yeah.
and gotten everything done.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we have, if we're working backwards for meeting day and meeting recurrence, we have until the middle of August to get this done, 150 days from today, so that's the middle of August. I agree with Joe, the first thing we need to do is work on an ad, but prior to doing the ad, we need to know what we're looking for. The ad, which we need to then digest into the ad. What kind of experience are we looking for? Are we looking for somebody just out of school? Are we looking for somebody with 5 years under their belt, 10 years under their belt? Are we looking preference, in-state, out-of-state, all over the place? And I think that we need to think about this as a committee, and then, since he has so nicely volunteered, Joe will write the ad.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, no, I carved it in stone. The minute you said you'd do it, it was carved. If we meet again next week, we could have thought what we're looking for in the ad. And then we can start with that and go ahead and place it.
Okay, so when do we want to meet? Thursdays?
I'm okay with Thursday if we can do it at, 5 o'clock.
Also, Monday's an option, because the FinCom doesn't meet till 7. So anytime before then, it's depending on everybody else's schedule here.
Why don't we set next Thursday and, it's a set day, but if they ask to change it, as we go on
Yeah.
to the meetings, we
Yeah.
can
I think we're all on
move.
the same email,
Yeah.
so.
If we could set Thursdays as our meeting day and then adjust if we have to from a Thursday, I think that would be best.
Mhm.
I don't know, I mean, town meeting is coming up.
Mm.
A lot of you are a lot younger than I am, you may have graduations and things to attend. Usually that requires a long weekend away. So I think Monday, well, it'd be good, it might be a problem getting people here after, after a weekend. So let's set our meeting dates as Thursday, if I have a consensus on that. Okay, and is 5 o'clock a good time? Okay,
5 o'clock is that I schedule clients out weeks in advance, so the next 2 Thursdays, I already have clients booked. I can try to move people around, but it gets a little iffy. So if we're looking right at next Thursday, that might be a no for me, but the following Thursday would be fine.
okay. Why don't we then say, well, this is March. April 3rd, that's 2 weeks. give us some time to think?
I just need to note that I am away April 3rd through the 14th. I'm sorry. I did let Jack know that before
Okay,
accepting this.
um,
Other than that, I'm all yours.
okay, well, why don't we, if you don't mind, let's set the 3rd. Okay?
Just don't neglect me, Cork. That would be good.
Can't you zoom in?
No, I'll be in a plane.
Five?
Okay,
And are we planning on weekly or?
I would think bi-weekly until we get to, some applications coming in that we would need to review.
Mhm, okay.
Does that sound reasonable to people?
I think so.
Okay. So we'll do Thursday the 3rd and then bi-weekly from then on. And when I call one of you and want to know why I have written the word search in my calendar. tell me. Okay. So, for our next meeting agenda, you know, as I said, I had written down, I think we need to start thinking about what we're looking for in a town manager. And I think one of the best things to do is to collect job descriptions. I mean, Norton has a job description, but the more we can collect from other communities to see what we like, what we don't like. That's the way I had always started when I was working. How did you start, Joe?
Well, we as a committee don't have the ability to. I know it's much enforce or, we can draft anything we want, but it's, again, the select board, that settles on a job description. You're right, there are qualifications that we probably want to see as a screening committee as minimum standards. And again, only because I've gone down this road a couple times. So our first town manager didn't even have a degree. And that was, as a screening committee person, I urged the committee to appoint, to further that person's candidacy, because I felt he had certain personal qualifications that was going to be a very tough transition from a no manager to a manager.
Mhm.
And my point is something that to me, it's always hard to set hard and fast standards. There are goals that we clearly want in a town manager. But I would just caution people to be flexible because of what we may see as candidates. Just my thought. Again, some of the job descriptions that we could have, we could use as guidelines. Some of the ads that are out there, we can use as guidelines. To me, it's as much about casting a broad net and seeing what comes back and comparing candidate against candidate. I'll share a story because I don't remember the name, but I'm reminded of the adage that no one ever so closely approaches perfection as when they prepare their own resume.
Is it Stephen Lombard?
I'm sorry?
Is it Stephen Lombard?
Stephen Lombard that was our first. But in any case, in one of the past searches, very as this group, a very diverse group, we had a good number of applications, and rather than have names showing on the applications, they were all numbered. And the suggestion was, let's take, and I think we had something like 140 applications. You know, some of those folks are very nice people, I'm sure, but they really weren't in the running for the position. So we kind of divided them into, yes, we'd like to consider you further. No, you didn't make the cut. Of those roughly 70, the suggestion was that we select 20. And you did this kind of on your own at home. Virtually everyone had this one individual as their first candidate. Everyone had them, but for almost everyone, this was number one. I was chair at the time, so I was about to schedule interviews, and I ended up calling the community that this individual was working at. And I said, could I speak to John Smith? And I had a kind of a pregnant pause. I didn't think that was unusual, because if he's applying to us, he's applying elsewhere, maybe get hired. So I said, can you tell me how I can reach him? And again, a pregnant pause. And then the woman said, he's in jail. I'm not making this up. He's in jail. It appears that he and his brother went down to Florida, wrapped dynamite around themselves, and threatened to blow up a jewelry store unless they turned over the goods. This was our #1 candidate.
Sorry.
So, based on simple resume, and so I caution people against, setting these as standards, because you never know what you're gonna get at this juncture. Interestingly, as I said, I've been on several of these. Probably 10 years later, I was on a screening committee and looking through applications, and the name, it sounded familiar, but then I looked at the work history. And about 5 years prior, he had a gap. It was the same guy applying for the job again. Because the gap was obviously because he was in jail.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not an exact science, I guess is all I'm saying.
No, but I do think that there should be some minimum standards that we would be looking for. Just, in the searches that I've done, and I haven't done a town manager, but I have done a fire chief and a finance director and an IT person. As well as my own staff. There has to be a minimum line that you're going to take in order to do justice to what's happening within your community. You can always choose to ignore that line if the person reads better than they are, but I do think in the world, now, the way finances are going, the way the state is going, the way the community is going, you need to have someone who has a basic understanding of municipal government. Municipal government is a animal onto its own, especially at the local level. We need somebody who understands how to work at a local level with boards and committees, the general public, business, and your other stakeholders. We have a college and sitting in the middle of our community, which makes things different than Mansfield or Easton, for example, so I think there has to be as I said, a baseline somewhere, even if it is master's in public administration or equivalent experience.
I think the experience part is probably more.
Yeah,
I'm with
Some
Zach with the experience
Some things they don't teach in
supersedes,
school.
no,
Yeah.
they don't.
experience to me supersedes a lot of,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, a
Well,
lot of
that's how
other
you would bring
credentials.
someone in, who may not have the educational baseline, but if they've had 20 years in, managing municipal government, that's a lot.
And I think it also depends, well, we're gonna decide that kind of first, but then, if you end up with only 10 candidates, or you could end up with 150, then that helps. If you have 150, that really helps you. If you can't interview them all, you can't meet with them all. So if they check certain boxes, then we can kind of narrow it down that way as first look.
I also will say, as somebody who owns a business, I know there's a couple of others who own their own business and go through this hiring process of their own staff. I know this will be very different, but the qualified applicants out there nowadays is probably very different from what you've had experienced in the past.
That's the understatement of the day.
Said in the nicest way possible.
Right.
So I think experience is probably gonna be a big thing.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a couple questions and a comment. The first one is to Mr. Fernandes' point about salary. We are in the middle of budget season. And I think I'm not sure. I guess I should start out by saying, what is the scope of this committee? Is it just to find somebody and say, here, select board, you negotiate with them? Or is it for up to us to set a salary range? If that's the case, then we need to make that recommendation to the finance committee. We have a town meeting coming up in April. And there's right now, there is a number on the board for next year's. There is a number that's been presented, has not been voted on, at least the finance committee, for a town manager. So I'm not sure how that, all that is gonna play out. Second thing is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the current town manager's contract ends June 30th.
Correct.
And you said we got till August 15th. If he walks out on the 30th, what is the interim plan? And is that our responsibility, or is that the current select board's responsibility? So I think that,
I would think that our responsibility is to advertise, do a preliminary run through, and the, I believe the charter says that we then send between 3 and 5 names to the select.
but we need to start. But in that ad, it's got to be a salary
Right,
range.
but the select board would set the salary, that doesn't seem to be within our purview.
Okay,
And I'm sorry, presumably they would do the job description as well?
They would approve the job, yeah, there is a. If we make any recommendations to change the job description, they would have to approve that.
Okay. And do we have an existing one that we're working with?
But that's what we need to get a hold of. Jill, can you get a hold of that for us?
is it in the town charter? No.
I believe there is.
The responsibilities.
job
are in the charter, but
responsibilities
Not
in
the
the
job
charter.
description.
Mhm.
Through you, Zach, what is the budgetary number?
Don't quote me, I can look it up when I get home, but I think it was 215, maybe in that range, in 200,000 range.
Seems about spot on.
When I was doing a brief search today, see if there was any other, there was one small town in Western Mass that was offering, it was 80,000 a year, which you're not gonna get anybody. And then I think Bridgewater was in the 250 range.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you're gonna be between 2 and 250, somewhere in there to get a qualified candidate, my opinion.
And as your second question, what is the interim plan? Alec, do you have any insight as to what the interim plan might be for when the town manager retires on the 30th of June?
So we do have town council providing us, we're going to be providing us with a interim town manager agreement that we can review. And I don't know if it's under the purview of this search committee or the select board to advertise that, come July, or before, because for someone to be able to fill the position interim in between the expiration of the existing town manager's contract on June 30 to fill it from July 1 through whenever the new town manager's hired. And it's not to say that our current town manager can't do that. He definitely can do that. But is that under the purview of this committee? Or is it the select board?
Select board, I would assume, yeah, I mean,
Well, my memory serves, there was an interim school superintendent probably about 8 or 10 years ago after,
That was Chris Mark back in 2013 after retirement of Patricia Anzay, and
like,
he was,
from
That's
London,
right.
I believe.
well, Martez. Chris Martez,
Yes, right.
and the body took over in 2013.
So that has been kind of a set already. The town has some, I'm sure, some information on that. Luciana?
If I could,
Yeah.
share. In terms of timing and, you know, if you, as you've done, count out the 150 days, we're into August, but this is kind of a critical time. Budget season is not only ending for Norton, but it's ending for a lot of communities. Contracts for managers typically end in July. People that are looking to move are looking now. So that's not to say there won't be good candidates out there in August, but this is the season, so to speak. So I think it's, and that's why I was thinking if we could run an ad, all the better. The sooner the better. Because I'd like to see at least the process well on its way to the select board. By the, and it's a tough time, end of May, early June, but
Well, the sooner the better.
yes.
All right, Chair.
Yes, Zach.
I know you said we have till the middle of August, but should we set a goal to have somebody in place by June 30th? It is 3 months. I
That would
mean,
be ideal.
I think we should try to, instead of going the interim route, and it's another layer. We have 3 months, maximize the time, try to get somebody in here by June 30th. I mean, just because we have the time doesn't mean we have to use all the time.
Okay, when we advertise in the Beacon, and I'm looking to you, Joe, for this. Usually leave it in there for 2 weeks,
It runs a month.
a month.
And again, my recommendation is, you know, language that said, you know, early applicants welcome, but the position remains open until filled.
Until
Because
filled.
the last, you know, the day before you're gonna make a decision, the perfect candidate may wait. So as if you haven't noticed already, I'm all about flexibility. Yeah, I look at qualifications as goals. I would, if just before the decision is made to send 3 in, one other thing while I'm on the subject, I would lean towards at least 4, if not 5 candidates, because again, the time of year, we're going to have candidates that are looking elsewhere. So by the time we make a decision and those candidates are forwarded to the select board, we may lose 1 or more.
Okay.
Beyond that, even though someone may represent themselves as a serious candidate, they may also be using the fact that they're a finalist at Norton as leverage with their current select board. So they're really not serious. I don't mean to be dismissive of them, but the point is, I think we want to shoot for 5. I think the process will whittle itself down to 4. And if the select board has 4 good candidates rather than 3, all the better.
Yeah, this says no less than 3 and no more than 5. So I'm just, and I'm a real process person. So if we come back together on the 3rd and consolidate what we think should be in the ad. If we submit the ad the following Thursday on the 10th.
Or we could do it as soon as there's agreement on the ad.
On the ad, okay, say the week of the 7th of April 7th. That means it would run through May 5. We could take a week to go through and see what we have and who we have, and I think we need to do just straight statistical ranking on that. Send something to the select board by the end of May, they could do the interviews.
Is it their purview to do the interviews, or do we do the interviews?
No, they do the interviews.
No, the screening committee
This-
interviews.
We do the pre-interviews and then we send them,
Okay, so we bring the candidates in
right,
in front of the committee,
Narrow it down.
narrow it down, and then we send them our
recommendations.
recommendations, no less than 3, no more than 5.
And where is it that they advertise municipal jobs? I'm not familiar with that. Is there a municipal?
Yeah,
It's not a-
MMA, and there is a fee. So I don't know, do we have a budget for that,
What
but
is it called?
it's the Mass Municipal Association, if you decide to just do it in the state. But that's where all the top, jobs get advertised.
That could be the- Yeah. And then I assume we'd also want to do the Globe. I mean, I always liked going out to other places, but we don't have to. The Beacon is where people are looking for municipal jobs.
I'm sorry, I'm very hard of hearing,
I'm sorry.
and most of you are not speaking to the mic, so I'm struggling to get it all.
You can hear me now.
I can hear you, Zach, I can hear Alec and Mr.
Sorry.
Fernandez, but
Yeah.
Diana, sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, no, the Beacon is where people usually look for municipal jobs.
I've never heard of that, but I don't doubt you, I've just never heard of it.
We could do that. Yeah, so we're interviewing the middle of May. We can move ahead. What is the professional, notice that people need to give? Is it 30 days? I'm thinking if we make an offer the middle of June, somebody can be here the middle of July.
I think it depends if they're a municipal, another town manager at another town, and they're under contract. It would be the end of their contract, I would assume.
I don't know that there's a standard on that.
I think that we're tight to have anybody here before the retirement of the current town manager. Just doing the backwards math, we need to have, I think they would need to have an offer in their hands by, call it late May.
Mhm.
To think about it for a week and give a month notice in June 1st. So I think we're gonna have a period where an interim may be there. If it's short, I don't know.
Mhm.
Is there someone in-house who could manage for no more than, say, 2 weeks? Again, where I worked in Plymouth, we always, if it was a short period of time, there was a pool of department heads who would unfortunately get tapped to be the town manager for a couple of weeks. I mean,
Madam Chair, is that our purview, or is that more the select board decision?
I think it's more the select board's decision.
Mhm.
They'll have to figure out what to do.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just going back a little bit, Joe, you mentioned, the beginning, do you already have something crafted, that you could share or
No, I mean, I
prior to our next meeting, so
certainly,
maybe we can.
I can,
Mhm.
if that's, something that folks would think useful, although. Again, things like experience, things like education, I think we're all, we all want the best education as screen committee members, we all want the most, experience. So again, my thought is, we list that in the ad that, a minimum of 5 years, municipal experience preferred. A bachelor's degree, required, master's degree in public administration or, business administration is preferred. I always use the term preferred because all other things being equal, I'd rather have someone with experience, I'd rather have someone with education, I'd rather have a whole host of things. But I wouldn't want someone, again, we're competing against other communities for candidates. So I wouldn't want someone to say, well, they're looking for a master's degree, I only have a bachelor's degree, I'm not gonna apply. That's shameful if we lose that candidate simply because, we thought, well, it's easy to write that, but how do we attract these folks that may have skills in other areas? Again, in past experiences, we had a number of people who applied who were retired military, who ran military bases. Now, we talked to a couple of them, but I wouldn't want to preclude that individual. We also had people that had state positions, but who interacted with municipalities, but didn't have specific municipal experience. Again, to me, I wouldn't want to write something that dwindles down the pool. I will do in terms of writing this, I'm glad to write it any way the committee wants. I'm just airing my thoughts. So I could have something written, obviously, it's not carved in stone. We can change and edit whatever way we want, but I could have something ready to go. And when it comes to salary range, it's just plug in the number
Yeah,
and then run it the next day.
yeah, I think it's best to start large and can always narrow it down.
Well, how about just throwing this out? If you all email me your suggestions, what you feel is important. I can get it to Joe. He can compile the ad. And that's what we review on the 3rd at our next meeting. So then we could hit the ground running. How does that sound to people? I mean, I don't think that would violate the open meeting law if you're just individually sending me things. And I do the compilation. Where we get into a problem is if we start chatting.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Zach.
how about Mr. Fernandez send us his draft? And then we'll look it over and make our own notes, and then at the next meeting, we can cut and paste and change it.
Does that sound
I
better?
don't think that violates any meeting laws.
Madam Chair, I think it would be, more beneficial that way that Zach's recommending, because I have a lot of faith in, Mr. Fernandez' experience. This is his 4th time at the table with this. I'm fully confident in his ability to bring forth a boilerplate, so to speak, for lack of a better term, ad that would be vague enough that it would attract, we're looking for how many candidates or so we're looking for, 30, 40, somewhere in there.
I don't know, you're gonna get that many.
But my
But-
point being, I think it would save a little bit of time, his experience, I think supersedes, anything that I can come up with.
So if we each look at the job description, make our recommendations on it, and send it back to Joe. I'm trying to figure out how to do this without violating the open meeting law.
I think, Zach, your recommendation was everybody makes their notes themselves and
we
we
bring it to the
collaborate
meeting.
together at the next meeting.
Yes, and
Okay, good.
and I would also, Madam Chair, like to see the existing, if we could get sent the existing job description, if there is one. And then Mr. Fernandez add, and then we can have an open discussion here legally, at the next meeting.
Does that sound good to everybody? Okay. Jill, again, can I ask you to get us the current job description? Thank you very much. So our next meeting will be finalizing this ad and getting it out. Joe?
Just one more question. I don't want to assume anything. The process, the open meeting law allows for the screening committee to meet an executive session with candidates to apply. And in other words, interview them in private. I want to make the assumption that that's what we want to do, because if you don't, that's going to dissuade someone who may be in a tentative position in their own community from coming out and saying, I'm applying north.
If my memory serves correctly, we do interview in executive session. And the only time that the names become public and has to be done in an open session is for the final candidate.
Right, but that's optional. I just wanted, again, I don't want to assume anything. That's the will of the committee. Because I think it's important to put it in the ad that they can apply confidentially.
Right. We have consensus on that point?
I fully agree with it.
Okay, good, so we have that.
Hey, Madam Chair,
That,
will the select board, or can you guys add to your next meeting on the select board that they give us guidance on salary, because that's gonna have to be put in the ad. The first thing somebody looks at, okay, there's a job in Norton, how much is it pay? $6 an hour, or?
We have to add it. We just got our draft agenda today. So
Yeah,
we have to add it to
we
our
have to add
agenda
it to
for
it.
Thursday,
I don't know when your next meeting is.
next Thursday.
Okay.
So we'll have that before.
could that come under items not, you know?
Now we can get it on the
acknowledged
agenda.
the chair?
Deadline's like
Okay,
Tuesday morning.
Great, thank you.
And also, Madam Chair, whatever the recommendation is, that should be forwarded and amended to the finance committee for this budget season that we're working on.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. there anything else we have to cover this evening? Joe?
Madam Chair, can I just review the items that I think I have for the next agenda? Do you want me to go through the
Yes,
list?
please, thank you.
Okay, so I have definition of scope of committee, job description, salary, advertising, interim scope question, plan A, plan B, and timeline for projected candidates.
Yes,
So I can,
you can,
do you
You
want me
said-
to draw that up for you since you have been appointed a clerk this evening?
yes,
Okay,
thank you.
okay.
And the next meeting, we will appoint a clerk. If not, the last one in the room gets the job. Okay, I like short efficient meetings. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Don't forget to
Bring
get
anything
your,
in.
open meeting law statements back.
Well, Mr. Mark,
Did you
how
bring
are
that,
you?
Joe?
Yes, I did. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
You already stole my. You already stole my-
Sorry.
That's okay. I was going to you anyway.
Hi.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's.